The first job I got in New York was singing in a rather famous bar, because a number of girls auditioned there in later years, such as Barbara Streisand. I went there, and I sang at the #1 bar, which is a little bar down on Fifth Avenue. It was a very glamorous bar, actually. And I remember wearing a couple of my mother's gowns, which she took in and managed to sew in such a way that I could wear them. And I mean, I was really put together with spit and vinegar. We had no money to speak of, you know. All I had was a thread of talent, you see. That's what I had. I had this ability to transform myself into all of these various characters that I played in song, and I had a voice. I had a small but a very true voice. So that was my first job. But out of that, I was seen by an agent who said, "I'd like to handle you. I think I can get you jobs." I was 16 years old. And he got me an audition, and by golly, if I didn't get a job in Canada at the Samovar Supper Club. So off I went that summer. The summer, it was the summer of 42.
Now, you went through Canada, and then you came back to New York.
I came back to New York. We were living at that time in a one-room apartment in that Greenwich Village, and I had the boys with me. I was kind of looking after them, getting them ready to go back to school. I had a wire from my mother saying, "Have found relatives, a very reasonable apartment, pack up the flat, send the boys back to school, I'll send you the money, and come out to California. I think that we can make careers for ourselves here, and I think there would be work." So that's what I did.
At that point, was it your notion that you would end up in the motion picture industry?
I didn't really understand what was happening, but I just had this tremendous sense of excitement that something extraordinary was that was possible, let's put it that way, that something was possible here. And, of course, it happened within a year. Along the way, I had managed to meet a young man called Michael Dine, and Michael at that time was a young actor. He was an actor-writer, and he was being considered for the part of Dorian Gray at MGM Studios out in Culver City. He said, "You know, they're looking for a girl to play Sybil Vane, and I think you're just the right age, and you know, you've got this Englishness about you." He said, I'm going to get the casting director to meet you. So he arranged for me to go out to the studio on my day off on a Saturday, I guess it was, or sometime. We worked on Saturdays in those days at the studios, you know. And I went and I met this casting director, Mel Ballerino. And he took one look at me and he said, "Oh, well, this is very interesting, you know." He said, "We're looking for a young English girl to play Sybil Vane, but we're also looking for a girl to play the maiden Gaslight, and I think I'd like to take you down to meet George Cukor." So, by golly, I'm damned if he didn't.
What are you doing with your evening out?
Oh, I'm going to a musical. Up in a balloon, boys, up. She's not the only one in the house, is she?
One interesting footnote on Gaslight. I have read that many years later you saw this film, and you said, "How did I get that self-confidence? Where did that self-assurance come from?" Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, it is, absolutely. And I mean, I look at a lot of movies today that I did in the early days, and I do wonder at it. And I try to understand what it was that gave me such inner calm and ability to produce a result, a performance that was fairly carefully crafted and took direction, of course. That was the lucky thing. I was able to take direction. You know what I mean by that? In those days, not all directors gave direction, but certainly George Cukor did. He thought it was terribly funny. Everything that I did, any little sort of perky, snotty little thing that Nancy did, he would appreciate, and he'd like it. A little less or a little more, you know. And he did direct me very strongly in the role.
You went on then to do the Picture of Dorian Gray, because you had been cast almost simultaneously for those two pictures.
Yes.
Was the experience of working on the Picture of Dorian Gray as good for you, as satisfying for you, as Gaslight had been?
It was a very long, very concentrated uphill ride for me, because it was, I had done National Velvet in between, you know, and so I was beginning to get used to the rhythm of life on the set and so on, learning to know people, learning to feel familiar with the workplace. And it became a workplace to me. It responded to my sense of work ethic. I believed in work. I was terribly conscientious as a youngster. I always wanted to please people. I always wanted to be good, to know my lines, not to let the side down. Nice things, nice qualities. I think I took them to a fare thee well. I was so conscientious that I really had no fun, you know. I never goofed off. And I missed a lot of fun along the way. But perhaps it in the end, it contributed to me being able to build such a very strong base for what was later to become an enormously successful career.
Goodbye, little yellow bird. I'd rather brave the cold on a leafless tree.
Do you remember your feeling when you first heard that you had been nominated for an Oscar for the first time?
I remember being totally awed and blown away by it, but I was very proud of the fact that in this supporting role, the work was recognized, and I knew that I had to work my way up to those roles. I didn't quite see how I was going to fit into the great star mold.
Yeah.
How could I?
Yes.
I mean, here I was playing rather small roles. Picture of Dorian Gray, they were such character roles and costume. They were also costume dramas.
Yeah.
You have to realize that. That would have been my quickest route to big stardom, would be if there had been a great costume role. Well, of course, there was at 20th Century Fox. And you know what it was? Forever Amber. If I could have gotten Forever Amber, I could have sort of become a Linda Darnell type of a star actress, I suppose, who, you know, and could have played in those kind of costume sagas that they did a lot of at Fox, you know. But MGM didn't make those kind of movies.
Did you approach Fox at all about Forever Amber?
Yes. Oh, yes.
How did that run?
Through my agent.
Tell us what that happened.
Well, it was just that various people were considered for the role, you know, and I wanted to be considered. And, you know, plenty of film for them to see, but they went with Linda Darnell.
Let's talk about National Velvet. You played the sister in this.
Yes, I wasn't very happy doing that.
Why not?
I must tell you, because I'd reached the age of 18, and then I was suddenly asked to play 15. And you know, when you're 18 and you'd come the distance I had, to go back and play 15 wasn't much fun.
Yeah.
You know,
yes,
it really wasn't. Having to play a little girl who was being kissed on the cheek for the first time, you know.
Night, Dorina.
Well, good night.
One of the things I read about you was that when you were a young girl, still in your teens, that you had this notion that one day you would show people that you could sing, and you could dance, and you could do comedy. And we started to talk about the thread of the film career, which we'll get back to, but it did not include those things in it.
I was doing very serious, you know, very good roles. And then suddenly I got sidetracked into